So I called Fernando Mendoza's very first college start. A couple seasons ago, I was working for Pac-12 Network, and it was a nighttime game between Oregon State and Jonathan Smith's squad versus a redshirt freshman who was a late add to a recruiting class named Fernando Mendoza. Almost ended up at Princeton or Yale, but then it was like, oh, pleasant surprise. We got this young quarterback, and they gave him his first start. They didn't even let him know he was starting until later in the week because his energy was so amped up. They wanted to like chill him out. But you could tell they believed in the young guy. But if you had told me that 2 seasons later he'd be winning the Heisman, I would have laughed at you. At the time, he was a dude walking into production meetings with his backpack, double strap on. He was all giddy, again, low-level recruit, getting his opportunity, just kind of happy to be on Cal and have the opportunity. Oh, how things can quickly progress. 2 years later, he's about to win the Heisman Trophy. We'll get into that and potentially be the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Real quick for you guys, I'm coming to you from my hotel room in Bristol, Connecticut. I'm spending the next couple days at ESPN headquarters. I'll be doing the nightly ACC network show, so be sure to check that out. Then I also got 3 bowl games coming up. I'm calling the LA Bowl on ESPN Radio this Saturday. I got the 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama on the 18th. And then while you're wrapping gifts, last-minute gifts on December 24th, Christmas Eve, the only sporting event on, the Hawaii Bowl, you'll see yours truly with a Hawaiian shirt calling Fernando Mendoza's former team, Cal versus Hawaii. But back to this video. A lot of folks are saying Fernando Mendoza wrapped up the Heisman Trophy with this throw right here.
Big play here, 3rd and 6 at the 24. Mendoza, Charlie Becker from Nashville.
Fernando Mendoza's thrown more touchdowns than anybody else in college football this year. He's led Indiana to 13-0. But the Heisman's not just about numbers. It's about the numbers, the story, and the film. A lot of people, I'd say everybody else, is going to talk about the first 2 components this week. You already know the deal. I got you with the 3rd component, the film. Johnny Manziel actually disagrees that first throw I showed you is worthy of being a Heisman moment. He said, quote, "We got basic fade routes being called Heisman moments now. I've really seen it all. Congrats to Indiana, though. That's a hell of a win." If that Big Ten championship throw is not good enough for Johnny Manziel, and there's also 2 other throws in that game that I broke down earlier this week. I'll link it up above. Check that out. But if that's not good enough, I want to present to you a different Fernando Mendoza Heisman moment. It's the Penn State game, and it's a 2-minute drill, and this is the throw that everyone's going to remember to Omar Cooper Jr. on the back end line. He toe taps in, and it's the catch of the year, and it's going to win his boy the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion. Also a heck of a throw by Fernando Mendoza. Gets hit by 2 dudes, anticipates the throw. This is the throw that people will remember. But it's the 2 throws before this, to me, that I will remember, and I'm hopeful that you will remember, that ultimately allowed Fernando Mendoza to even get to that spot to win the Heisman. This is right after he got sacked. It is 2nd and 17. You're down 4. And right here, he picks up 22 yards on a little seam route that, again, anticipation, all sorts of DBs back here for Penn State. This safety rolls down. This guy's playing middle of the field. This corner is trying to 2 for 1. And Mendoza fits it in there. The moxie on the road at Penn State, just got sacked, season on the line, to come up with this throw, and this kick-started the 2-minute drill that resulted in the touchdown that we just saw. That was big. And you can literally see the film is shaking. You can see the significance and feel the significance of the moment. Then just a few plays later, again, you got 2nd and 10. He's going to fit a little seam route right in here. Very similar deal. It's 2 Tampa, safety middle half. He's rolling down into here. Another big gain, another chunk yardage throw. And this isn't just, hey, an offensive coordinator scheming things up. This is Fernando Mendoza trusting and throwing his receiver open. These 2 big throws set up the touchdown throw to Omar Cooper Jr. He also, like, the very next play, had a back shoulder to 80 as well. Again, the back view is shaking. This, to me, is the Heisman moment, and these 2 throws are the ones that set up the touchdown catch that everyone will remember. My computer died right after I said that sentence, so while we got a break in the action, hit the subscribe button down below if you're enjoying this video. But now we got to look at how those moments compare to the other Heisman contender. Diego Pavia is sitting at 2nd place with long shot odds at the Heisman Trophy, but what does the film say? Should the odds be closer? The film says yes, and it's because of playmaking of his ability to make plays as a playmaker, not just within the progression as a pocket passer. And I know Fernando Mendoza is mobile, but Diego Pavia is different. They're going to fake the swing route here, and then it's just a quarterback draw up the middle that he goes for, I believe it was 37 yards on this one. All three of these plays that I'm about to show you are against Tennessee. The case for Diego Pavia is based heavily on how strong he finished the year. He was just over 1,800 total yards and 16 touchdowns in November. That's 465 total yards per game with 4 touchdowns per game. Here, similar deal. Route concept, they got a dig here, a little control route. They got a curl route and a go route. No one's home. Diego Pavia tucks it and runs. This is versus Tennessee. This is a legit matchup. For Pavia's sake, I think he wishes this was even more high profile of a matchup to go toe for toe with Mendoza. But again, you can see his ability to create. And then the last one, and it's funny because in September, if you guys watch my videos, I was saying how people, or I made the case, check the footage of how people were underestimating Diego Pavia's ability as a passer. Everyone knew, hey, the marketability, everyone knew the run first offense. But I was saying, yo, from a passing standpoint, Diego Pavia is nice, and it's plays like this that are the perfect example. He's rolling left as a right-handed quarterback. Perfect fade route over the shoulder. Diego Pavia's final 4 games were against Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. That's getting it done. Mendoza, over his last 4 games, he averaged less than half of Pavia's total yards. Just so you know that I'm not handpicking plays here. We got one versus Auburn, and the next play is against Missouri. No, the next play is against Texas. Again, it's Pavia, play breaking down, flushing out, making the defensive end miss, picking up 12 yards. Advanced stats also love Diego. He's top 2 in the country in terms of expected points added per dropback. Fernando Mendoza is 7th. Right here, again, Texas. You can see him scanning, breaks down the pocket. This is where the athleticism takes over. If I'm a Heisman voter and I'm voting for Diego Pavia strictly off the film, it's because of his playmaking ability. The offense goes as Diego Pavia goes. You can make an argument that the offense doesn't necessarily go as Fernando Mendoza goes. That is a run game that is very dynamic. I would make the argument that the impact that both these guys have on their offense specifically is comparable. Mendoza, more NFL style, take what the defense gives you, throw guys open. Pavia, much more playmaking ability. We've seen the footage, but this is how I'd break down the race. The pros for Pavia. 1, he's got the story. The whole climb of Vandy over the past couple years is a phenomenal story made for a documentary someday, and Pavia led that. 2, he is the guy on his team. What I mean by that is I think Pavia would have been served much better and probably would have got my vote if it was Pavia versus Julian Sayin, because Sayin, statistically great and in the same category as these guys, but Sayin's not the whole show for Ohio State. Pavia leads the charge for Vandy, no doubt about that. And then the marketability, it's very intriguing because this has nothing to do with football, but it's very much a factor. Pavia has been on everyone's radar for 2 years. He's backed up the talk all off season with a phenomenal season this year. That narrative will matter to some people. The cons working against Diego Pavia is also the story. And what I mean by that is the dude that he's going against, Fernando Mendoza, has a comparable story to Diego Pavia. Completely different personalities, completely different approach. But Indiana, being in a territory they've never been in before, with a quarterback who's balling and was an under-recruited guy, those same storylines for Pavia also apply to Fernando Mendoza. And then Pavia, no real Heisman moment. I know that's annoying, but that's just the reality of what it is. He got hurt by some games too. That LSU matchup he had in the middle of October, that could have been a premier quarterback matchup, him versus Garrett Nussmeier. It just didn't really live up to that. In the Missouri game, Bo Prebulo went down. And then in the Alabama game, a game in which they lost, Ty Simpson clearly outplayed him. And then that's where Ty was the narrative for the next month. And then that Tennessee game to end the year, yes, it was a huge game for Vandy. Yes, it was a great SEC game, but it didn't have as much hype as it could have when we thought, when the beginning of November started. For Mendoza, the pros for him, he is the best player on the best team in the country. We've seen it before. Sometimes I hate that narrative, but it's the reality of sometimes how the Heisman voting process goes. Mendoza, he's a legit NFL dude, which again, shouldn't matter to the Heisman Trophy, but it does in terms of the trajectory that he's on. That's going to win him some votes. It's not like he's, not to throw anyone under the bus, but like a Jason White type of Heisman Trophy winner. No, Fernando Mendoza is going to find himself playing on Sundays, and I think that plays a role with some voters. Then he's also got the story, same thing I just mentioned with Pavia. The cons, the stats aren't overwhelming necessarily. It's not like it's a shoe in him over Pavia. And then you could kind of make the argument impact. I don't agree with that, but I think some people might say, hey, it's the Cignetti show, or hey, their defense is great, or hey, their run game is great. But I don't think there's enough there. I think Fernando Mendoza should be and will be your Heisman Trophy winner. And what a story it will be for a lower level, under-recruited guy from Miami, goes across country to Cal, bets on himself, goes to Indiana, gets Indiana over the hump, and Indiana gets their first Heisman Trophy winner, I believe, and hopefully that kickstarts a CFP run for him.